The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Jim Gaffigan spoke to the Washington Post, and boy, I've been killing Jim for not calling us back at the radio station nearly 20 years ago. But Jim, call people back when I help you. On a recent weeknight, Jim arrived at the Gotham Comedy Club to do an unannounced 22-minute set, says the Washington Post. It's because he had just burned his latest material on that new special, Dark Pale. I haven't seen it yet. At some point, I will tell you what's going on in my personal life, but I can't watch that one right now. His wife, Jeannie, said, once a special's released, you can't really do the same show because people are like, we just saw that on TV. As part of that set, Gaffigan opened up with a chunk about his children. And he said, I'm so grateful that I can do stand-up comedy, but I do need you to know that my life at home is horrible. It's hell. He talks about discovering mid-conversation that the child he's speaking to is leaving the room. He jokes about getting called fat and bald for merely suggesting a coat be worn in cold weather. He imagines telling his therapist about his children without mentioning that they're indeed his children. He says, I live with these 5 people. They eat all my food. They spend all my money. And when I ask them to do anything, they yell at me. Any therapist would be like, you should move out. Nice profile of Chris Estrada in Esquire. They say the day Chris Estrada's life changed started like so many before. He was up early, he was in the car, off to work at the warehouse, day shifts loading trucks. On this particular day in 2019, it was 12:30. He was on lunch break. He was in his car, and a call came in from comedian-producer Fred Armisen. Fred wanted to work with Estrada on a product that would become This Fool. That's the Hulu show loosely based on Estrada's life. Armisen said the call wasn't immediate. Okay, let's start, as opposed to, hey, I need to know you. He didn't need to. Armisen said, I liked his haircut. He greased it back in a way that I think only people who grew up with The Clash would know. When the call was over, Estrada bought a sandwich from a truck and went back to unpacking the boxes. He didn't tell anybody. He says, nobody had time to hear your effing dream. We had work to do. These days, Estrada said, financially, if I'm being honest, my life has changed. My buddy told me I should buy Bitcoin, and I go, dude, I barely understand real money. Leanne Morgan tells NPR, it took me a long time to find my audience, but I always knew they were out there. I think Hollywood forgets us, and I think a lot of comedians that are cool and edgy and all that just forget about my demographic, and I think we're the best. I think we're the people that make decisions to go buy tickets and want to go out there and have a good time. On connecting to her audience, she says, I'm nurturing. If I make fun, it's of myself. It's not of anybody else. I'm not confrontational, and I think people find comfort with me. I was in L.A. doing the Comedy Store, which was a dream of mine. It was all these edgy comedians that were getting up and talking about all kinds of stuff. And then I got up and talked about how somebody made me a meatloaf at my children's school the day that I got my IUD replaced. Young people came out of the Comedy Store and said, can I hug you? In my mind, though, I always had a chip on my shoulder thinking, oh, I'm not edgy enough. I'm not a cool kid in the business, in the industry and all that. And I do think people were enjoying what I did. Jimmy Kimmel told the Las Vegas Weekly, it's interesting how many comics don't sit down and write jokes. If you really want to be a comic, sit down for 2 hours and write jokes. If you have any gifts whatsoever, you're going to come up with some good stuff, but you have to apply yourself. I had the benefit of being a disc jockey, so I had to fill 5.5 hours every morning, sometimes by myself. You wind up getting in the habit of working hard. The Weekly asked him if you need thick skin to survive in the business. Kimmel said, I think you always did, but it's become more personal. Now we have a new phenomenon, which is people cursing you and your family and threatening you and criticizing you. Why are you laughing at that, John? You do have to have some toughness, and you develop that as you experience it, but I do find that when people are new to it, it can be very hard for them. It's not so hard for me anymore. I mostly just don't look at any of it, but it's hard not to look at the beginning. All right, Kimmel, what keeps you going? You've been doing Jimmy Kimmel Live for 20 years. Kimmel said, I'm not entirely sure. I like doing the show. At the end of the day, writing the show all day is hard. It's sometimes fun, but most of the time it's not. It's a lot of nonsense I have to deal with that I'd rather not. But at the end of the day, at 4:30 p.m., when I walk onto the stage, I want to make sure that I'm funny. That's what drives me from 7 in the morning when I wake up till I drive home afterwards. If you enjoy what I do here, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/daily comedy news. Couple options there. One of the options is the $2 club. So what you do is you sign up for that. And then every month, however, the automation with your credit card happens and all that, it'll send me $2, right? And then I'll shout you out on the show for that. The most common thing is to throw $5 in the tip jar, and I will take your $5 and I'll go to the National Donuts chain. And I'll be like, hey, National Donuts chain employee, large iced coffee, caramel, and milk. And I will get one. And then I will drink it. And I will also thank you on the show. Buymeacoffee.com/daily comedy news. Yahoo took a look at The Fringe. Suze Kemper's show is called Y2K Woman. They say it's endlessly inventive and bursting with creativity. Suze Kemper is at once extremely contemporary and a throwback to the golden age of variety, whether it's political satire, musical comedy, acting, impressions, or straight-up stand-up. She manages to excel at it all with complete fearlessness. You'll find her at the Underbelly in Bristow Square. Is it Bristow Square, or did an L drop there and it's Bristol Square? I should check. Why don't I check? Yeah, it's Bristow Square. The Underbelly is a venue at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival off Cowgate. The LA Times asked comedians about artificial intelligence AI comedy. Rosebud Baker said, I heard one AI thing where Tom Brady's voice was doing stand-up about himself, and it was hilarious in a way that really concerned me. On the other hand, it makes all these specials with comedians crying at the end make a lot more sense. Brad Williams said, I wrote into ChatGPT, write me a joke about cancel culture. It responded, my toaster got canceled for making the toast too black. Brad adds, so for now, the human's job is safe. Matthew Broussard said writing jokes will be one of the very last tasks AI will be able to do convincingly and effectively, meaning against all logic. I chose the career with the most stability. John Pavaromo, host of the Dystopia Tonight podcast, had a good take. He said, since AI can't create on the spot, but only glean from information that already exists, in comedy, we have that already. We call them hacks. And in the same way, a skilled comic can blow a hack off the stage, I have no doubt in a live setting that do the same to anything an AI can generate. However, as we've seen already when it comes to TikTok and Reels, views don't always equal talent. Amen. Ahmed Ahmed said, AI in comedy is like eating processed foods. It's just simply not good for you, and no one wants to digest computer-generated humor. It's not authentic and lacks timing, which is what comedy's all about. And all right, button up for this one from the Daily Mail. Australian comedian Benjamin Frenchy French shocks audience as he sucks a woman's foot in front of her husband during a live show. Do I have your attention now? Yes, I do. So Frenchy French is there on the stage, and he asks a young woman what she does for work. Tara was at the show with her mother and her father and told Frenchy she works in a shoe shop. Frenchy asked Tara's mom, hey, is that where you got your fresh kicks, you saucy minx? And then added, you ever have your foot sucked on? Mom said, maybe. Why? Are you offering? Frenchy was taken back as he challenged her. I knew you were a spunky woman. I'll suck your feet. Don't think I won't. Mom took off her shoes. Frenchy goes, oh, wait, is this your husband? Is it okay if I suck her feet? Dad went, yeah, mate, go for it. He did it. And then he joked, I went 4 toes deep on that one. Then Mom admitted she hadn't washed her feet in a week. Frenchy said, you haven't washed your feet in a week? What? Yelled at the dad, wash her feet. And that's your comedy news for today. You didn't see that one coming, did you? No. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go on YouTube, find the subscribe button, push it. I don't need you to listen. You just listen to the whole podcast. You don't have to listen over there. I'm just trying to get to 1,000 subs. So help me out. YouTube, subscribe. Do that. See you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Mark Francis and host of a new podcast, The Messi Effect. Join us as we take you into the exciting new world of Argentine soccer phenomenon, Lionel Messi. And his new life at Inter Miami will bring you into the glitz, the glamour, the star-studded events, along with the exciting journey to a new world of U.S. soccer and international football with news and stories 3 times a week. Come along for the ride as Messi, Miami, and Major League Soccer experience the journey of a lifetime. Get the Messi Effect wherever you get your podcasts.